My guest today is Lethia Owens, who is a growth strategist and professional speaker. She's the founder of Game Changers International. She's also the author of a book called Your Brand Influence, The Art and Science of Building an Influential Personal Brand. And there she is right there. Hi, Lethia. Welcome to The Inspired Life.
Oh, hi, Bob. I am so excited to be your guest today. You just do not know.
Well, I'm equally excited because we have a little bit of a history. You know, our lives have intertwined here and there. And I definitely want to we'll touch on that. But first, just to kind of introduce people to you, I'm going to read this like little paragraph that you've got on your website that's part of your bio, and then I'm going to ask you to sort of expound on that a little bit. But I think this is an amazing story here. So you write, "My start in life wasn't so promising. I was born into poverty to parents with very little education. But with an indomitable spirit, I transformed my life, rising from a dropout in the 9th grade to becoming a catalyst for change on a global scale. My journey is a testament to the power of determination, unwavering belief, and the profound truth that anyone can be a game changer." Well, that's a pretty powerful paragraph there, and that sums up your story. Now, I know you're in Florida now, but you have roots in St. Louis, correct?
Absolutely. Yep. I moved to St. Louis after college.
Oh, okay. So this growing up in poverty wasn't necessarily in St. Louis?
It was in Georgia.
In Georgia.
Albany,
Oh, okay.
Georgia.
Even though we're going to get into a lot of the ways that you have lived an empowered life, an inspired life for sure, let's just talk about that personal journey, if you don't mind. Yeah, where were your humble beginnings? And just tell me a little bit about that, if you would.
Absolutely. And my story really is a big part of why I started my company and even named my company what it is. So I said in my bio that I came from a really challenging background. You know, we were so poor, Bob, we couldn't even really afford to even pay attention. Like, that's how poor my family was. But unfortunately, at a very early age, I found myself in a situation where I was a teen mom. I dropped out of high school, even though, I was an average student, but I dropped out of high school. And my mother did something that totally blew my mind, Bob. My mother, who did not graduate with a high school diploma, but had risen through the ranks of her job at Kroger and became a bookkeeper. So for her, like, that was huge to have not gone to high school or not finished high school, not gone to college, and to be trusted with that role and responsibility, and eventually became front-end manager. She quit her job and got a night job as a security guard, just so that I could go back to school and finish my education. Then, and while back in school, I met this guy, I think in between my sophomore and my junior year. And so we started dating. And my junior year, he said, "Lethia, you should study for the SAT." And I'm like, "SAT? What is that?" He said, "That's the test you take to get into college." And I'm like, "Dude, I'm not going to college. I'm going to be a cosmetologist." And he's like, "No, you need to go to college." And so every time I would say, "Would you take me to the movies, or would you take me to the mall?" He would say, "Sure, as soon as you study for the SAT." So for a year and a half, I studied for the SAT. Long story short, it's now time to take the SAT. He says, "Ask your parents to get you registered." So I tell my mom, and she's like, "What is that?" And I said, "It's an exam I need to take." And she says, "I don't have any money for an STD test." And I said, "Mom, it's not an STD test. It's called the SAT.
That's funny.
And she said, "I still don't have any money for it." So my boyfriend paid for it. So, you circle the schools you want to send your scores to. And I did that, and I thought I was done. He can't, he won't bother me anymore. Well, I had this side hustle, Bob. And my side hustle was doing something that, when I dropped out of high school, one of my teachers predicted. Mr. Wilder, when I told him I was dropping out, he said, "Lethia, you'll never amount to anything. You'll probably end up selling blow or end up on welfare for the rest of your life." Well, I did end up selling blow, but just not the kind that he thought. I sold blow pops out of my locker, and I made like $50 a week. And that's what I used to help take care of my daughter. So one day I got called to the principal's office, and I knew I was in, just mad trouble. And here it is, my senior year, and I'm scared I'm not going to be able to graduate because they're going to kick me out of school. And I go to the principal's office, and the principal basically waves me into the office. And when I go in, there's this gentleman in this blue suit, and I'm like, oh, they called the school board. I am in really, really big trouble. And before I could even introduce myself, this gentleman, he waves his paper and he says, "Lethia, I have a near perfect SAT score, but no college application. Like, what gives?" And I'm like, oh, it's not about the blow pops. Okay, I can compose myself. And I said, oh, sir, that's simple. I'm not going to college. I'm going to be a cosmetologist, right? And he looks at me and he says, but what if we give you a full ride? And I said, look, sir, I don't know you. I just met you. I am not getting in a car riding with you anywhere.
So you were suspicious for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. And he's like, a full ride does not mean you get in a car with me. He says, no. That means you go to college. We pay for everything. And I was like, what?
Wow.
I said, I can do that. And so I ended up going on to get an undergraduate degree in computer science. I have a master's in leadership and management. I have 2 honorary doctorate degrees in divinity and working on a second master's in digital marketing. But I say all of that to say, Bob, not, oh, look at me. But what I want you to really remember, and I want your listeners to remember, is my mother and my boyfriend.
I was going to say, you had 2 role models there that kind of showed you the way and then encouraged you. That was huge.
And here's the thing. They were game changers for me because they made a game-changing decision that totally shifted the trajectory of my life. So in my work in the world, I teach people that they are a game changer. But a game changer isn't about saying, hey, everybody, look at me, I'm so great. Being a game changer is about changing the game for other people. And when you do that consistently, you don't have to worry about taking credit to be a game changer. You will be given credit and honored for your role in changing the lives of other people.
So I guess that's a pretty big motivator when you've got people in your life that step up and influence you in that impactful way. It's going to motivate you to want to do that for other people, right? And which leads to a life of service. I mean, there's definitely personal satisfaction when you get the feedback that you've improved someone's life, but in the giving you receive.
Absolutely.
So you went through this education, so you got all these degrees and obviously turned your life around with the help of those mentors and influencers. But let's talk about like your entrepreneurial journey. I guess you decided not to become a cosmetologist. Is that the right word? Did I get it right?
Yeah, you got it right.
Or is it cosmologist or cosmetologist?
Cosmetologist.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah.
I don't know if that's with the cosmos or what. I don't know.
I think it's a space thing. Yeah. When did your kind of entrepreneurial, or did you realize that you could inspire people? When did that journey start, and how did that evolve to where you are now?
Oh, Bob, it is another great example of being a game changer. So here I am. I'm an IT leader at State Farm Insurance Company, and they recognize my talent. And so they put me on what they call the fast track to senior management. And in this program, they assign you a VP level mentor to help you quickly rise through the ranks, right? So for 2.5 years, I'm being mentored by this woman named Dixie Axley. And so Dixie starts saying things like, Lethia, I want you to go through this Dale Carnegie training. Okay, I do it. Then I become a certified Dale Carnegie instructor. She says, Lethia, I want you to go and become a certified coach. And I'm like, okay, all right. And I did it. And then she says, hey, Lethia, I have these speaking opportunities within State Farm. I want you to go to California and speak there. I want you to go to Texas and speak there. Speak about leadership because you have a master's in leadership. So now I'm traveling all over the country speaking on behalf of State Farm. And one day, Bob, she sits me down and she says to me, Lethia, you are bigger than any opportunity State Farm could ever afford you. You were meant to speak, to coach, and to change the world. And I say to myself, is this how they fire people nowadays? Like what's happening? And she really opened my eyes to what was really possible for me. And it was totally unexpected. Like, she coached me out of the company. 2 weeks later, I incorporated my company, and 11 months later, I quit my comfortable corporate job to take on a role where I am unemployed at the end of every contract until someone else says that they want to hire me.
Wow. But that's usually unheard of in the traditional business world. You got this rising star, and you're encouraging them to leave. It's usually you want to hang on to those people, but she saw something in you. So just as like a reoccurring story of someone seeing in you something that maybe you didn't see in yourself and encouraging you to pursue your greatness. Also, your attitude from these stories is like, I know you don't have to say yes to everything in life, but people suggested things. You were almost like reluctant at first, or what is that? Okay, I'll try that. Sure. You know,
Right.
yeah, even though you didn't know where it would take you.
And sometimes I believe that sometimes we have to have faith in someone else's vision of what our life could be like until our own belief catches up. And that's what I did. And I've kind of made it a practice to say yes unless there is a very solid reason why I should say no when it comes to opportunities.
Right.
Because I believe that opportunities are always afforded. And I have non-negotiables, which helps me to say no consistently to the things that are not part of my path. But if they work through my non-negotiables and they check off all the boxes and they don't conflict with my non-negotiables, and if there's no reason that I can figure out, like I don't have the capacity or I'm not the right timing, if there's no reason, no evidence of why I shouldn't say yes, I always say yes. And
Right.
that has created so many beautiful opportunities. Some of them have gone far. Some of them I only went 2 miles down the road and learned a little bit and met some new people, and then it was over. But it has been a beautiful way to live, Bob.
That's great. And so a lot of different aspects of this. So you go to school to learn skills. You worked at State Farm. Is that what it was? Or in IT for the insurance company. So that's like a technical skill. But there's a lot of mindset in here. And you referred to, when you talked about Dale Carnegie, and you mentioned that sometimes other people have to believe in you before you believe in yourself. So there's a lot of internal mindset work here. So what were some of your influences? Like, what did you do over the years, especially in those early years as you were growing, to improve your mindset? Did you have practices? Did you have mentors, things that you turned to? I'm just curious about that.
It was real interesting growing up in the arena that I lived in. I lived on the south side of town. I was bused across town to where the better school was. And my biggest influences was TV and my teachers. So T&T, TVs and teachers. And so my teachers pushed me and created opportunities for me to see a world that was very different from the world that I was living in. And my TV appetite was more around really healthy, positive TV, like The Cosby Show. And I saw a family that lived nothing like I lived. And what it told me was that this is only a part of reality, that there's a world that I have not experienced yet. There's a world that I have not yet seen that exists. And I want to see and experience that world. So I didn't know where I was going or what I was going to do other than being a cosmetologist, but I knew I was going to have a briefcase and I knew I was going to wear a suit. Like, that's all I knew. Claire Huxtable is what her name was on the show. I just knew I was going to be like her. I was going to have an amazing family. I was going to have my briefcase, and I was going to do something important. And so even being a cosmetologist, my vision was having shops all over the city, right? Like being the head cosmetologist in the city. So whatever I did, I was going to be the best at it. And so that was part of, I think, where my inspiration came from. I didn't really read a lot as a child, but I was always pretty mature for my age. And then after having a child, I didn't go out and party because I couldn't. I had a baby at home to take care of. So I spent a lot of time with older people and just listened to the wisdom of older people. So I think in part, I was coachable because I spent a lot of time with older people as well.
Yeah. And you had that vision for your life, even though it wasn't maybe clear or specific. Like you said, you knew how you were going to carry a briefcase and wear a suit. And did you end up getting a briefcase at some point?
I did. And here's the funny thing, Bob. So when I came home and told my mom I got a scholarship to go to college, she said, "Stop lying. Nobody's going to just come to your school, pull you out of class, and just give you money to go to school." And I'm like, yes, they did. They did, right? And so then when I went to college, because we were poor, the Pell Grant in Georgia paid for my education. So my scholarship money, I got back in the form of a refund. My freshman year, I started my first official company. And my mother, when she heard about it, said, "You're doing too much. You just need to sit down and focus on school. You know, don't try to do all these other things." A year later, I got a contract with Procter and Gamble. I had a balloon decorating business. So I had all the proms in the city. I had secured contracts with different companies to do decorations for their events, and Procter & Gamble hired me to do their employee appreciation day. I hired my mother and paid her $100 an hour to blow up balloons. And this is what she said. She was like, "Ooh, baby, I'm so glad you didn't listen to me. Ooh, I'm so proud of you."
That's hilarious. So your earliest sort of entrepreneurial endeavors didn't involve personal development at that point. And so it was more providing services, right? So party planning, what other entrepreneurial things did you do in those earlier years that kind of led to your
Yeah.
growth?
So I want to take a step back before the balloon business. My boyfriend funded my second, because I sold blow pops, but then when I got to college, I sold candy apples, and Andre gave me $50 to start my candy apple business. And every Tuesday and Thursday, I would go to the dorm, make an announcement over the intercom, and I would be sold out in like 30 minutes or whatever. And he says, I never got a return on that $50 loan that I gave you. And I said, I paid you with hugs and kisses. But I did a lot of IT related kind of side contracting while I was in college, and I ran that balloon decorating business. What really inspired me was the feeling of empowerment of being able to hire my friends and pay them well to decorate for me. So I had students who worked for me and would on the side help me decorate for weddings and events, and just to know that I was helping other people, that I was giving other people an opportunity to earn a living and earn a livelihood so they didn't have to work at McDonald's or Burger King or something like that. So that was really empowering as a young 19-year-old, right? I was 19 years old, Bob.
Wow.
And I got bit by the entrepreneurial bug then.
Yeah.
So.
And even though those are relatively humble beginnings, I'm sure you learned a lot of skills that you were able to use later. Like you had to, like probably sales, you had to approach businesses and pitch your services, organize things, managing people. This is probably all skills that came in handy later.
Yes, absolutely.
Because nothing is wasted in life. I had you feeling you're going to agree with me on this, but a lot of people sort of kick themselves for, I worked this day job for way too long. I should have, broke out on my own or done this thing, followed my passions a lot earlier. Or they had all these they seemingly unrelated jobs, but I think everything you do can be used in whatever endeavor, even the most random things, right?
Yeah. And the thing that I've learned is that we behave in a manner that is consistent with how we see ourselves. And I saw myself with the briefcase, which meant that I was doing something important. And I saw myself in a suit, which meant I was successful at whatever it is that I was doing. So whatever I've done, whether it is, and I've done some things, right? Like the candy apples, the blow pops, and just continue to evolve, and then opened up a computer consulting company. So I own a speaking company now and a digital marketing agency. And I just realized that whatever I'm going to do, I need to be the best at it.
Yeah. You had the vision of the briefcase and the suit, but it's really not the briefcase specifically. It's like what the briefcase and the suit represents to you.
Absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely.
It's like it's almost like a vibration, not a specific thing. It's part of your identity. I see myself being this type of person, and you became that, which is awesome.
Yeah.
I want to fast forward a little bit to you when you got more into entrepreneurial stuff or teaching people about branding and personal development, because I know this interview is about you, but our lives have overlapped in different ways. Do you mind talking a little bit about the branding book that I wrote a book called Branding Yourself Online. In fact, I have a copy here. Right. This came out in 2001, like 23 years ago. Can you believe that? And you came across this book at some point in your journey.
Yes.
Can you just tell me what role that kind of played, or where you were in your life at that point?
Absolutely. So I was working at State Farm. I've now had this conversation with my supervisor, with my mentor. And so now I'm on this path to start my own business and to become a professional speaker. And right around this time, Tom Peters had coined a few years earlier this term personal branding. And so I decided that I was going to buy every book that was on the market that had the term branding or brand or personal branding in it. So I became certified through Reach 360 as a personal branding strategist, and I bought every book I could find. So I bought your book on Amazon. Out of all the books I bought, it was the one that resonated with me the most because of the philosophy that I held about marketing my business, from the things that I had learned and just who I am and how you presented it. And I ate that book up like it was lunch, like it was pizza with some extra special sauce. And I had no clue you lived in my city. That is the crazy thing, right? I started consuming your YouTube content. And so just fell in love with you and was telling everybody. I was coaching people and requiring that they buy that book. You need to know about this book, and then I can coach you because it's going to give you all the foundational information. And then one day, Karen Hoffman, I think, was the person who made me aware that you lived in St. Louis, and it was over. I was like, oh my God, I got to meet this guy, right? And I really credit you, Bob, for making marketing so clear and the whole idea of building a brand for yourself so attractive, because I was still learning about it. I had an IT background and had never really taken business classes and marketing classes. And I just so fell in love with your work that it really stretched me. And I eventually went on to create something called the Magnetic Brand Framework, which is the process that I take clients through when I work with them on their personal brand. So I just want to personally, now that I have this platform and I am here, right? I'm not just the watcher. I am now on the show. I just want to take a moment and thank you so much for your work. It is so appreciated and it has changed so many lives. And I am living proof of your work. So thank you.
Thank you. Wow. I'm touched by that. You're going to make me tear up here, Lethia. So that's really meaningful because you have expressed, I knew that you consumed it and we've talked before, but I never heard it to that depth. So thank you so much. Most of my books that I published, like 16 of them over the years, were independently published. I put them out myself. There were 2 that smaller companies put out, and this was one of them. And they actually approached me in the early days of the internet. Like they approached me in 2000 because they were looking for somebody to write a book on personal branding and liked the way that I was doing that with music marketing, which was my original niche on the internet. The subtitle of this thing is How to Use the Internet to Become a Celebrity or Expert in Your Field, which I just realized kind of in recent years that there was the first book about how to be an online influencer 23 years ago, before it was even a thing, right?
So Bob, I want you to recognize this. You are a game changer. Because that book and the work that you've done has changed the game for so many people like myself. When I talk about Dixie Axley, when I talk about my boyfriend, when I talk about my mom, in business, you were one of my game changers. So I thank you so much.
I didn't want to make this about me. I'm going to take that compliment. Then you've written your own book on branding called Your Brand Influence, The Art and Science of Building an Influential Personal Brand. So obviously it's a topic that has stuck with you for a lot of years.
I just finished my 3rd revision this month. So I'm so excited.
That's awesome. Do you think of yourself as a creative entrepreneur or a heart-centered business person? Perhaps you're a musician, author, artist, or performer. Or maybe you're a coach, teacher, or energy worker. Or you just have an inspired message you want to share with more people. If this describes you, I invite you to join the Magnetize Your Tribe community. This is where you'll learn how to attract perfect, soul-aligned fans and paying customers without feeling spammy, boastful, or overwhelmed. I'll share the principles that allowed me to grow my YouTube channel to hundreds of thousands of subscribers and the lessons I've learned from publishing 16 books, attracting a sizable online following, and being self-employed for the past 20 years. Just visit bobbakerinspiration.com/heart, and it's free to join. That's bobbakerinspiration.com/HEART. So I know we really haven't talked about this, but I think you have 2 tracks. Maybe you can explain this. But I know a lot of your business, you deal with businesses to help them build teams and leadership and all that stuff. Maybe you could tell us what that is. But I have a feeling a lot of those principles that apply to the businesses and the leaders that you work with can also apply to individuals. Because a lot of people watching this will be creative entrepreneurs. They might be musicians or artists or aspiring authors, or they could be someone who is in like the energy worker, massage therapist, somebody in yoga, or maybe they're a life coach or something, or they're aspiring to these things. So I like to call them heart-centered business people, where their true motivation is to make a difference, to be a game changer in other people's lives, but they're confused about like the marketing, the entrepreneurial path, also this whole mindset of being worthy. So I have a feeling, pick any of those and let's talk about how we can apply what you've learned and what you teach to these folks.
Absolutely. So, Bob, I have two audiences, but my body of work is primarily the same. And my two audiences are I go into corporations and I teach professionals how to manage their life and career as a brand, like to see themselves as a brand, and then to manage their career as they're managing a brand, which is kind of unique in the sense that most people, haven't thought about that. And then when I work with entrepreneurs, I'm teaching them to actually build what I call an influential personal brand. I believe that if you have a magnetic and influential personal brand, you'll create a following that will support you, that will follow you, will buy from you, will basically become a tribe that you get to encourage, inspire, challenge, and help grow. So there are 5 steps in my process of the brand influence framework. And the first step is to really define your expertise. So whether you're an entrepreneur or whether you're a professional, you want to become crystal clear about what is it that you bring to the table? What makes you different? What is it that you have to offer that can be of value to other people? So when you figure out what that expertise is, then you can begin to share it with the world. And once you know what that expertise is, the next step is, and I'll go through them quickly, and then if you would like, you can ask me any questions. But
Sure.
The second step is to communicate to connect. So once you know where your expertise is, whether you're in a corporate environment or an entrepreneur, the next step is to connect with people or to communicate with people about who you are, what you can do, how you do it, and what you're doing in a way that connects with them, that makes them care about what you're doing and why you're doing it. The next step after that, step number 3, is to lead where you are. So leading, being comfortable, being the leader, being the person out front, being the person telling the story, being the person directing is really important. And so whether you have a title or not, right? In corporate America, sometimes you won't have a title yet. You may not be in a formal leadership position, but you have authority and influence and you have an impact because of how you do what it is that you do. And so you can lead wherever you are in the organization or wherever you are on your entrepreneurial journey. The next step number 4, is to grow through change. Now I'm going to focus on the entrepreneurs on this one. You and I both know that we are almost in the wild, wild west right now when it comes to AI. Like AI is changing so much, so fast that it will make your head spin. And trying to keep up with everything that's going on, you can either choose to become frustrated or you can use it as a launching pad to catapult you to another level of success, taking on opportunities that are all around. So teaching people how to grow through change instead of being fearful of change, becoming paralyzed by change, or just frustrated by it, we can learn to embrace it and actually intentionally grow through it and become better human beings, better business people, better entrepreneurs, and build an even better brand. So one of the things that for me has happened is as I have gone through my own challenges with what happened? I don't know what's going on. So let me try that again.
You got sparkles going on there. Wow,
I know.
You were radiating. There's fireworks shooting out of your head. I've never seen that before. That's awesome.
I know. I think this is my operating system. There are certain hand gestures that if you do, it does things. So I got to be real careful with my hands.
Well, you mentioned AI. Maybe it's it was trying to make itself known.
Right. So let me start over with this. Okay.
Go for it.
In my own journey, what I want to share is that as things have changed really quickly, for me, I have had to grow as an entrepreneur. I've had to learn things. And I've actually had some tough lessons in the last year financially, Bob, that when I talk about growing through change, we have opportunities, even when things don't go right, or even when things change and they kind of throw us off course or disrupt what it is that we were trying to do, we have an opportunity to become better. And what I have learned is that as I have been vulnerable, transparent, and allowed myself to grow through the changes, it's actually, interestingly enough, it has actually made me more appealing to people. Like more people are paying attention, more people are listening and responding because of this authentic story that I'm sharing. And then the fifth step is to deliver unique value. And I think from a branding perspective, when we really focus more on not trying to paint a picture and create a persona that we think people want to experience, but we just, in an authentic way, share ourselves with the world and just say, hey, look, this is who I am. Flaws and alls, ups and downs, experiences and philosophy. This is just who I am. And so the beauty of just being able to share yourself with the world, realizing and believing that you will attract your people. I believe that your people are your people, and no one can distract them from wanting to listen to you or follow you, because there are some people who are attracted to the sound of your voice, the things that you say, the way that you say it, and the way that you do it. Because there's nothing new under the sun, right? Nothing new under the sun. But there are some people who can hear the same message from you who won't respond, but hear the message from me and think it's the first time they ever heard it. Right. So we have a following. We just have to authentically show up in the world, because those people are waiting for us. They're not waiting for an imitation of Bob or an imitation of someone else. They're waiting for us to show up. And when we do, we will have influence and impact with them, because I think that we are called to be the game changer for them.
There's that word again, game changer, or that phrase. So true. And this speaks to, like, there's so many people I've heard, I'm sure you've heard over the years too, will say, oh, I want to put out a book on this topic or this subject, but it's already been covered. A lot of people are already known for that. It's like, so what? But nobody brings the unique perspective that you do to that topic. Don't let that stop you.
Right. I could have been discouraged by your book. I'm like, oh man, he's already written a great book on this topic.
Yeah.
Or I could choose to be inspired by your book, which is what I was inspired. I'm like, oh, wow, right. I can do this too. I can talk about this. I can write a book about this.
So that's awesome. Thank you for sharing those 5 steps. I do, I want to ask you a little bit about them. Number 1 is, was it know what your expertise is at the first step?
Yeah, define your expertise.
Define your expertise. Now, I am very blessed that I've kind of known what my passions were since I was a kid. So I've always kind of known what I was always drawn to music and writing, and it makes perfect sense that I would write books on music marketing, combining those 2 topics, But there are a lot of people that say, I don't know what my passion is. I don't know what my mission is or what I should be doing. Do you have any advice for those people? Do you think the signs are there and they're just not recognizing them?
I think that the tune is always playing on the radio. The challenge may be that you're not dialed into the right frequency, right? Mm-hmm. So when you begin to pay attention, I tell people, and this is a very condensed way of looking at it, but I tell people, pay attention to things that you're passionate about or things that piss you off.
That's good. Yeah.
You're going to find your zone of genius and your expertise probably somewhere in one of those 2 things, right? So I've always been passionate about making things better, about organizing things, about packaging things. I wrote every word to the movie Grease, every word in a little blue notebook, wire-bound notebook. And I had my friends learn parts, and I put curtains up in my backyard and made a stage and blocked off so you had to pay to come in, and we put on a Grease production, right?
Oh,
I think I was like 14 or something crazy like that.
That's funny.
So I've always had the abilities that they were unrefined, they weren't fully developed, but they've always been there. Like when I look at you just become more of who you are. So
right.
If you could learn who you are and what really energizes, fuels you, gives you this sense of passion, or the things that piss you off. Like I hate when people are treated unfairly, treated poorly, like the underdog. Like I'm always rooting for the underdog because I was the underdog, right? So I always want to open doors and create opportunities for people who are overlooked, undervalued, underappreciated. So when you think about what pisses me off or what I'm passionate about,
right.
My work around being a game changer and communicating this message it stems from those areas.
And I also think that the clues are there from childhood. If you think back to what lit you up or what you were drawn to as a kid, there are clues there. Mm-hmm. And it's not necessarily literal. Like, for instance, you love putting up the curtain and doing Grease, right? So one, if you're looking at that literally, I'm meant to be in musical theater, or I'm meant to be a singer. But that wasn't necessarily the case. Like, what's the quality of that? What's the aspect of it? It's like, I like performing. I like expressing myself. There are many ways that you can do that. So I think a lot of people are like looking for a job title or something as part of their mission, but really it's like, what are the qualities and the things that you're drawn to, and how can you apply that to something
Absolutely.
broader? Yeah. So, and then your second, I'm going to combine sort of the second steps. One is connect and communicate, and then lead with value. Is that the third one? Or
Lead where you are.
So that's another thing that people struggle with, because I've been mentoring, creatives and people on marketing and branding and social media and getting, exposed, getting yourself out there, spreading your message. And this is where a lot of people also feel uncomfortable, especially when they're not used to being in the public eye. They like, who am I to spread my message, or what are people going to think? And then stepping into that leadership role is a whole nother thing. But what are some tips that you have for people to step into their power when they're maybe feeling fear and uncertainty in those early stages?
I would just say start small. John Maxwell has this principle, the rule of 5. If you go out into the forest with an axe and you just take 5 swings on a tree every day, just 5 swings, not 500 swings, but every day just take 5 swings at the tree. Eventually, the tree will topple. So from a leadership perspective, if you could first start with yourself, lead yourself, and just do something small every day, right? Try to just make one decision to lead every day. Over time, what you're going to find yourself doing is stepping up to bigger and bigger opportunities. Leading yourself may look like something simple, like I'm going to decide to start exercising. So I'm going to exercise for 20 minutes twice a week, something small. Then it might turn to 30 minutes, 3 times a week. Then once you feel like that's a habit and that's something that you have mastered, then introduce one other thing, right? I'm going to start making calls to my children 3 days a week and connect with them via voice. Just leading yourself to do things that are important to you. Eventually, you're going to start leading other people, and then you're going to start showing up as a game changer in their life.
Yeah, that's a reoccurring theme with people that have reached higher levels of success, is this whole baby steps concept that I've been on a broken record over the years, telling people you don't have to make that big leap, just take the next step, and then the next step after that. I'm also going to be creating some sort of a course or program on confidence and building confidence, and there's so many different aspects to this, but you can't intellectualize confidence. Like I'm known for my affirmations on my YouTube channel, and yes, doing affirmations about I'm confident, seeing yourself as being powerful, very helpful. But until you get active in the real world, taking the steps, surviving it, and actually having maybe a good experience with it, that's where you actually build confidence. It's that combination of thoughts and actions and baby steps consistently over time too. That's also the thing, is to continue doing it.
Remember I said I say yes unless there's a reason that's very clear to me why I should say no. I believe that success is not like you talked about this, people think it's a huge leap that we have to make. No, for me, it's a series of small yeses. When I quit my job, people said, Lethia, that must have been a huge leap of faith. You must have been really scared. And I said, no, I wasn't scared at all. And it wasn't all that big. It was just another yes, because I had been saying yes to Dixie Axley over 2.5 years. Go do this, Lethia. Okay, didn't understand why, but I'm going to do it. And it worked out for me. So when I got this idea to start my own company, okay. And then eventually when I was making at least 40% of my income part-time speaking, I'm like, okay, I can quit my job and do this full-time. So it was just another small yes. It wasn't a huge leap, right? So.
Say yes to life. Well, this has been an amazing, inspiring conversation. I knew that it would be. So here's a question that I like to ask many of my guests. And so it's 2 parts. One, like, what are the best parts about what you do, like where you currently are in your career, coaching and mentoring for leadership and being game changers? So what really lights you up? What this really thrills you? What the best parts about how you're living your inspired life these days?
I think the best thing for me, Bob, is just the freedom that I have to be who I am, to do the work that lights my heart on fire. And even though I really enjoyed my work in IT at State Farm and in the corporate environment, the level of freedom to be able to express myself and to choose how I contribute to the world is a gift that I am extremely appreciative for. So I'm thankful that I have the business mind to be able to monetize my gift. Some people have a gift. You know musicians who are amazing musicians, but they don't have the business savvy to really monetize that gift well. So I am very thankful that I feel that I've been blessed with both the gift and the ability to monetize it and turn it into a business. So that is what lights my heart on fire, to be able to start a company for the purpose of changing the trajectory of my grandchildren's lives. My digital marketing agency is an organization that I created for the sole purpose that when my grandchildren graduate from college or trade school, if they choose not to do college, or if they start their own business, whenever they do one of those three things, they will become part owners in that company. So I am changing the financial trajectory of their lives, and they start working in the company when they are, don't tell the government, 6 years old. And so I remember my grandson, when he started working, when he was 6, his first summer, he made $332. And I pay him in ones because I want him to feel and see what he's earned. And so he has $332 and he's shaking and he says, Grandma, what am I going to do with all these monies? But, just to be able to teach them work ethic and to have them pouring into something. And my granddaughter just graduated from high school. She's 18 and still works with us. So that freedom to be able to use what I am building to have that kind of impact on the people that I love and to have it focused on heart-centered work, I am in heaven or here on earth.
That's awesome. Yeah, it's because you have a gift or a talent doesn't mean you have to monetize everything that you do. Some things you can just do for pleasure, but there's nothing wrong with monetizing your gifts, because if you're able to support yourself, you don't have to work side jobs or day jobs. You can pour more of your energy into that thing that you're truly meant to share,
Yeah.
And so that's a whole other topic that we kind of touched on earlier. But part 2 of this question, not everything is rainbows and unicorns, there's ups and downs. There's a roller coaster ride to any path that you take. And so what are some of the most challenging parts of what you do, or what challenges have you faced in this entrepreneurial journey of serving people?
Yeah, I would say, Bob, one of the biggest challenges I've had is being an entrepreneur, we're cut from a different cloth. And being married to someone who is who's not a risk taker, who's very risk averse, someone who just thinks very differently than me. I'm a very creative kind of a person. It has been a challenge in our marriage to really stay on the same page. And so we work almost as hard on our marriage, if not harder, than we work in the business to make sure that we are okay as a couple. And Andre and I, in 2 weeks, will be celebrating our 33rd anniversary. And we believe that the marriage comes first. And so we have to put it first. So it has not always been easy, especially making decisions where I want to take a risk and do something big that I think is ahead of the market. And he's like, no, which leads me to the second challenge, because last year, Bob, Andre trusted me. I made a decision to invest in a product, and we lost about $120,000 on that project. And that was hard. So it was, connected to the marriage, but being an entrepreneur, sometimes things are not going to go your way. Sometimes it's not going to pay off the way that you thought it would pay off. And we want to make sure that we are taking care of ourselves and that we are strong enough and that we are focused on good mental health so that when blows come and challenges happen, we are able to stand. When we had that experience last year, I actually became really depressed. And I was smart enough to wave my white flag. And I told my husband, I am not well. And what that meant was that I needed to take some time and really process what had happened. And for me, what I was struggling with was that I convinced my husband to do something that ultimately lost us over $100,000. And I was feeling so bad about the position I put us in. And the reality of it is that I grew so much. Our marriage grew so much. So it really wasn't a loss. It was a loss financially, but it was a gain emotionally and relationally. So even when bad things happen, there are still bright stars and things that can be positive even in those bad situations. And if you've not learned to see that and to operate and move in the world that way from a point of your locus of control being, I can still make good things happen even though something bad has happened, it's going to be hard to move forward and really work in this business of being an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
So I want to encourage your listeners to really make sure that they're working on themselves and not just in their business.
Right. And part of that stepping into that leadership role is being vulnerable and sharing that with the people that you coach. It's not all about being invincible and being a superhero, because people want to see that you're human too. But there's lessons learned in every challenge, and you've risen up above. So congratulations on that.
Yeah.
Just like two more things. How about a surprising fun fact about you, Lethia? Anything that people might not know about you that just be kind of fun, lighthearted?
Yeah, absolutely. I am a budding pilot.
Wow.
People don't know that about me.
No.
I taken off by myself and I've flown a plane by myself several times, but not landed. I've not mastered or gotten to the point where I'm comfortable coming down yet,
Okay.
but eventually I will. But I take flying lessons as a hobby, actually.
Yeah.
Not sure if I'm going to get my license or not, but because flying with a co-pilot is satisfying enough for me, I do that as one of my stress relievers.
That's how I had no idea. That was a surprising fun fact. So where can people find you online?
Yeah, absolutely. So you can find me on my website, lethiaowens.com. And I have a special bonus for your friends, Bob. If they go to lethiaowens.com/Bob bonus, then I have a special download for them. They can download my magnetic blueprint framework and my market domination blueprint. Also, if they search me on any social media under Lethia Owens, they will find me.
That's awesome. So you already got a special page set up for that. So it's lethiaowens.com/Bob
/Bob bonus.
Bob bonus, all one word. Okay, awesome. Bob bonus. Oh, cool. I'm going to have to get that myself. This was awesome. Lethia, thank you so much for sharing your wisdom. I just want to remind people that are listening to please, wherever you're watching this or listening, whether it's on YouTube or on one of my podcasts, please make sure that you're subscribed and follow, because I'm going to be doing a lot of these interviews, or you can go back and watch previous ones. This is actually a little self-serving, Lethia, to be honest with you, because I get as much out of swimming in the same ocean as the people that I'm interviewing, and I'm uplifted in it and inspired. So thank you so much for being here. It's great to reconnect with you, and continued success, my friend.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been my pleasure.
Thanks for watching again. So long for now. Talk to you again soon. Bye-bye.